Right, so in this presentation, I'm going to go over the assessment criteria and also the requirements to ensure that everything is anonymous in the written part. I have already covered the key points concerning topic essay. I'm going to focus mainly on the practical, although I'm also going to incorporate a few things from which could be related to the topics. Okay, so these are the instructions published by Comunidad de Madrid. They're not too different from other autonomous regions, but I'm going to focus on Madrid in this presentation. And we're going to go over how to proceed. So concerning the general considerations when you are going to be called, etc., please read this in detail. It's available on the Poppies platform for those who are doing the course, and it is also available on madrid.org in this case, or for other autonomous regions in normally in the corresponding section in the education department. Okay, so let's focus then on what is allowed and what is not allowed. As we have seen, basically, the written test, the written part, the topic and the practico are going to be penalized when you have spelling mistakes. So that is why we insist in the course to revise everything, to reread and to edit and correct before you hand in anything you hand in to the members of the panel, to the panel. Consider that they're going to penalize spelling mistakes, they're going to penalize grammatical mistakes, and they're going to basically penalize if you make the same mistake more than once, they're going to penalize it only once. But pay attention to clear handwriting, pay attention to line separation so that everything is clear. You don't write everything all crumped up, which it makes it difficult to read, etc., all the logical things. Consider that you are being examined, but at the same time you are showing your abilities as a teacher, and reflect therefore on what you expect your students to do. And based on what you expect your students to do, you need to do that much more, because now you are showing that you are a good candidate to be a permanent school teacher. So general things, as we said, important to bear in mind, and I will never be it will never be enough how many times I stress these facts. Anyway, let's get to the point. Consider that under the general criteria, okay, apart from the mistakes, etc., then they move to the syllabus design. So what comes here is about the syllabus design and nothing else. It's not about your essay writing, it's not about the practico, it's not about anything but the document you need to hand in. And this document needs to follow these instructions. I will cover them when I deal with the syllabus design. Bibliographical references need to comply with this in the syllabus design, I insist. I'll move on to the actual elements, or the elements we need to take into account when it comes to both the practical exam, part A of the first part, and much less because I already recorded something concerning part B. So in part A, in Madrid, we have three parts. You have three parts. You have a listening, you have a text analysis, and you have translations. Concerning the listening, this time, as it has been customary in the last 2 or 3 occasions, you have an audio around 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes long. It will be played twice, and you will need to fill in gaps, you will need to answer questions, and you will need to write a summary. As we have mentioned many times throughout the course, important thing, the gaps are the gaps. Either you understand what they say and you know the word, or you don't. Concerning the answer to the questions, answer the question you are being asked and nothing else. Do not give all the details you are not being asked about. And focus on the aspects, those aspects you may incorporate in your summary. The summary should be a brief a brief outline, if you will, a brief writing concerning the contents of the audio with the key elements, and not a repetition of the questions, the questions or the answers. If you are going to repeat the answers, it's not going to be a good thing. Another point I would like to stress is that even with summaries, it is a good idea to structure your writing well. So we would include an introduction. In the introduction, we state the key points which are dealt with in the audio. Of course, in the introduction, we also state what the participants and what the contents of the audio are about. And then the body will develop the points hinted at in the introduction. Finally, the conclusion would be the rounding up of what has been said, so that in a way it connects without repeating the same things with the introduction. Pay attention to reread what you write. Make sure that you haven't made or you correct spelling mistakes and grammatical mistakes, and that you express your ideas with clarity and with displaying a good command of the language. That is for the audio. Concerning the text analysis, it would depend on the questions, as we have mentioned on many different occasions. My recommendation is that you read the questions first, so that you can see what is being asked, and then decide how you're going to distribute your time to ensure that you can answer, if possible, all the questions. Do not panic. You can you can answer the questions. I'm sure of that. Then see what questions require reading in detail or reading sections of the text, and follow the instructions accordingly. Please pay attention to what they ask you. Do not assume that they are asking you something. Read and follow the instructions. If you do that, I'm sure you'll be fine. Concerning, and that will be for 75 minutes. And then the translations, well, you have the indications here. I think you've got, with 150 words, roughly 150 words, there is plenty of time for you to do the translations in 30 minutes each. However, pay attention to understanding the source, transferring the accurate information, and following the sociocultural features of both the original, the source, and reflect them in the target language, and make sure that they read natural in the target language. Again, those are essentially the elements. You have here the assessment criteria. Notice that it has been itemized. You're going to demonstrate that you are able to understand and to tell facts from opinions, that you understand the key, not only words, but also phrases or expressions, and that particularly in the written expression that you display, you show that you understood, that you follow the indications, and that your command of the language is good enough to be an English teacher. You're also going to be assessed concerning how good you are summarizing, synthesizing. Imagine that you are explaining the audio to somebody who has not heard the audio. So it should be complete enough to give a good, accurate overview of the content. Concerning the text analysis, again, you got here the elements they're going to take into account. They will apply more or less depending on the questions you are being asked. And then concerning the written expression, the same as before, I mean. Now, I would like to highlight a couple of things concerning the written expression. Answer what you are being asked. Do not give more information than you are requested. Try to be as brief and as clear as possible. And reread what you write to ensure that you don't make spelling mistakes. Try to present things with clarity and neatness. Even if you make mistakes, you can cross things out following the indications we gave in the previous video. Remember that you cannot use abbreviations, and by abbreviations we mean personal abbreviations. Of course, if you are explaining an initialism or an acronym or whatever appears in the text, you will need to use those abbreviations. But when you write, when you explain things, get to the point and use the complete word. That's what is meant by not using abbreviations. Perhaps in the practical, there is much less concern concerning the the use of the underlining, etc. I think we clarified in the previous video what you can underline. I will just remind you that in the topic you may underline different parts. If you cite a book, the title of a book, it should be underlined. You may also underline, because there is nothing said against that titles, but remember that when you write the essay, it should read as a proper essay, not as a textbook with different parts. That's my recommendation. What else concerning the criteria for the translation? Remember that is not translating word by word. That's not a good translation, but demonstrating that you understand the source and that you are able to convey as accurately as possible the meaning and the socio-linguistic and particularly the socio-cultural features which are part of the text, the source, and transfer them into the target language in a way that is natural in the target language. Do not use calques, do not translate literally. Of course, for friends, you need to be paying attention to that, so that you don't use a term which is not the meaning it has, either in general in the source language or in that particular context, because there again, sometimes the same word may have different meanings depending on the co-text, the other elements that are part in the text. Notice that I mentioned the sociocultural features, which I mentioned before. So essentially, pay attention to all these and you should be fine. Read the questions, make sure that you try to answer as briefly as possible and make things easy for the members of the panel. Okay? And you'll be fine. Good luck, and I'll see you around. We'll see you around.